What's up, coaches? Welcome to this edition of the Basic B-Ball Podcast. Super excited to have our coach on tonight, Coach Travis Steele. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, man. Happy to have you on and talk a little hoops.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to have me on, so I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, man. Again, thank you for taking time out of your busy days. You guys are hopping into practice. But as we get going here, we're just hoping to get a quick little intro and background and kind of your spots and where you've been at to get to where you're at currently.
Yeah, I've kind of coached at all different levels. I started at I wasn't like a big time player or anything like some coaches are. I was a solid basketball player, but had a great passion for the game. Grew up in Indiana, which obviously, basketball is king in that state. I in a lot of ways, I was my brother's kind of his shadow, growing up. John's about 12 years older than I am. John Gross, he's the head coach at Akron. Now we compete against each other in the MAC, but I always kind of looked up to him and knew what I wanted to do at a young age. So I started coaching high school basketball at a place called Ben Davis High School. And I coached AAU basketball for what's now Indy Heat and Indiana Elite as well, kind of in the state. Those are two of the bigger AAU organizations, and kind of cut my teeth doing that and started up my own skill development company, allowed me to pay my way through college at Butler University. And I was blessed to work with some really good teams and be around a really good high school coach, Steve Whitty and Scott White over at Ben Davis High School. And from there, I went to Ohio State University, the Ohio State University. I guess that's what they call it there. I was a graduate assistant for Thad Matta at the time. I was there for 1 year. Then I actually left so I could continue to coach my AAU team. I got kicked off the AAU circuit because of an NCAA rule, and people were complaining. So I coached junior college basketball for a year at Wabash Valley College over in Illinois, right on the Indiana-Illinois border, and still continue to coach AAU as well. And then from there, I went to Indiana University. I was there for a couple of years with Kelvin Sampson. It was a great learning experience there. And then I went to Xavier. I was with Sean Miller for 1 year. Chris Mack for probably, I'm just going to guess, it was a long time, 10 or 11 years. It's probably about 10 years. We were together there at Xavier. And then, I was in every role at Xavier. I was an director of basketball operations. I was an assistant, associate head coach, and then I became head coach. I was there for 4 years. And then I've been at Miami now going into year 3. So I've been really fortunate to work with some really good coaches and under some really good guys. I've learned a lot, whether it's Thad Matta, whether it's my brother, Kelvin Sampson, I mentioned earlier, Chris Mack. I've been around some really good coaches that have kind of helped me get to where helped giving me the opportunities that I've been able to get.
That's awesome, man. I think the funniest thing I heard out of that was it's great of you leaving Ohio State to coach AAU basketball. That's awesome. I feel like
I had a good team. I had a good team.
That's awesome. Well, I was gonna say, if it's a good program, absolutely. Sometimes it's almost a better opportunity than doing the GA stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of want to speak on that, or just some of the guys you've worked under, man. That's a pretty good list of coaches you kind of went through of guys you've worked under, kind of different philosophies and stuff like that. Just anything you kind of learned over your years of working some of those head coaches.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like each guy, obviously, they're all phenomenal in their own right, but they're very different. It just shows you how many different ways. I think you got to be authentic, right? And how positive Thad Matta is, and his energy is just infectious. It's just contagious. It just spreads throughout the rest of the organization. His positivity, and a guy like Chris Mack, how detailed he was, how he'd go about his day to day. How you had everything mapped out and planned out, and not just talking basketball wise, I'm talking just program, systematic way of ever doing everything. And Kelvin Sampson, obviously he's a terrific coach. I mean, he's as good as there is in college basketball. And you look what he's doing down in Houston, but his relationships that he has with his players, those guys would run through a brick wall for him. And you could tell, right, when you watch his teams play. I think his team has a very, very, very clear identity, and that's what all great organizations or great teams have. So I've been able to pick up things kind of from each guy, throughout my career, and I always kept a big file, and I'd add to it over the years things that I would do if I ever got a chance to run my own program. But I think at the end of the day, you always got to be yourself, right? And I can't be Kelvin Sampson or or John Gross or whoever it might be. I have to be the best version of Travis Steele I can be.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so cool what you said about Coach Sampson of like, you always think about like his defense and how well they play defense and like how much they attack on it. Dude, you got to have that as a coach and kind of be able to bring that out of guys to be able to do what they do for 40 minutes every single night, man. They're just relentless.
Yes, they are.
Curious on just kind of taking over at Miami, as you mentioned, heading to year 3, how it's been kind of you implementing kind of a new culture, your era, the Travis Steele era at Miami, what that's kind of looked like for you and kind of implementing that culture and trying to implement winning habits and winning culture into their DNA.
Yeah. When I took it over, I knew it was going to be a rebuild. Right. And the administration knew that as well. And I told them, listen, it's going to take me till year 3 to probably flip this thing. Even in the current landscape, the Miami is a high academic school, so it's harder for us to take transfers, quite frankly, versus some of these other schools. So we have to recruit more through high school, right? And that's got to be so. We got to be a little bit more patient, right? And but it's I've made every decision since I've came here about year 3, even if it wasn't the right thing in the short term. If style of play, if the guys didn't fit it, I didn't care year 1, to be quite frank. Or year 2, like we were going to get it in so we could build this thing the right way. And I played a lot of young guys. I played 5 freshmen last year in year 2. Now those guys, the best thing about those guys are sophomores, right? And they've got a lot of experience under their belt, and and we're better for it. And and the same thing with our culture. It's been ongoing process. I say it's constantly evolving, either bad or in a bad way or a good way. Culture is, and we've been able to really recruit to it. And we've got a couple of recruiting classes now here that again, we wanted to find guys that really fit it and not just be words on a wall, so to speak. And I think we're in a really good place now. It's funny, our talent level I feel really good about. I feel really good about the culture. Our culture is really, really, really strong right now. We got great player leadership and ownership, and so I'm excited to see where we continue to grow and take this thing to even another level. So this should be a big step for us this year, coming into year 3.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so interesting to talk about. It's so hard for you guys to get transfers and playing young guys. I don't say it's risky, but it's like you got a chance if those guys play really well. Now you're kind of running that risk of, and again, risk I don't think is the right word, but of them leaving and transferring out. So just kind of curious on kind of how you navigate. I know it's a super hot topic on the transfer portal, but how you guys kind of been navigating that with it being so hard to get guys in. And then if you play those young guys and they have success, you're running that kind of chance of potentially losing them as well.
Yeah. I don't really have a great answer for it. I think we're all trying to figure out how to fly the plane midair. Right. But relationships, culture matter, right? Development matters. The grass isn't always greener. And I think you're seeing that all across, not just basketball, but football as well. It's like, you're just going to go collect the paycheck and sit on the bench and be a backup, or do you want to be a frontline guy? And I think when guys go through and see their friends or people they know go through things like that, it's kind of like, maybe this is the best place, right? But we want our guys to want to be here. I don't want to beg people to be here. Miami's a great place. It's got a great education. We're unique because of the academic piece. We want guys that value families and young men that really value education. We want somebody that wants to be a part of our culture, which our guys get along really, 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 really well. There's great connectivity in our program between staff, players, staff. And then obviously I want them to see that they're getting better. There's a plan for them to reach all their goals that they have. They can all happen right here in Miami. Miami's been to Sweet 16s before. It's we've put guys into the NBA before. Our league, there's been a draft pick in the last 3 years in a row from the MAC. So everything can happen right here. But we got to make it happen, right? We got to water our own grass. I always say grass isn't always greener. Let's water our own grass every single day. And I think we'll like the result that we all get at the end of the day.
That's great, dude. How's that look for you guys? You kind of mentioned of trying to help guys realize, hey, this is your plan. Is that something you're doing as you're recruiting them? Is that something kind of as freshmen, sophomores, juniors, you guys kind of have that plan of whatever it is? Maybe I want to play professionally or whatever, team goals. Is that something you guys are kind of talking consistently with guys? And is that really planned and implemented as you guys are going through day-to-day stuff?
It is, like I meet with our guys every 2 weeks on development, just about, and with the position coach and strength coach. And from a body, are they getting stronger? Are they getting more athletic? If they're not, if they're losing weight and they need to be gaining weight, why? What's happening? It holds people accountable, right? And same thing on the court. It's like, well, if these are our 2 areas of focus over the next 2 weeks, let's attack these 2 areas. How did it go? It didn't go as well. Well, why not? Like, do we need to make an adjustment? I try to get our guys to understand, like, listen, like we are going to be, you can't be great at everything, right? I don't care whether you're at Starbucks or as a company or Chipotle, everybody, you got to pick what you want to be great at. And for us, we're going to be great at the development of our holistic development of our players, of our young men. That's as a person, student, and player. That's the one promise we give our prospective student athletes when we're recruiting them. That's what we tell them. You're going to get our best every day. And so we meet on it every 2 weeks. We have a blueprint for our guys, basketball-wise specific, of how we're going to take them from where they are currently to where they ultimately want to be. And we let them have a lot of ownership, to your point, like, hey, what do you want to do? Right? Like, okay, you want to be a pro, then we're going to hold you to that standard every single day. This is how you're going to do it. I've been fortunate. I've been around some really good players and have coached some really good guys. And we have a good track record, so and our guys, they get more buy-in the more they see, obviously, like they see it working. It's like, man, it makes them even more excited to be in that gym, right? And come to practice every single day. Because that's the key, man, is the development piece. And that's, I don't know if it's lacking throughout college basketball, but I think especially in this landscape that we're currently in, where it's kind of year to year, it is a little bit, a lot more than it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's cool. It's like, I think part of it might be lacking too, even what you're talking about right now, being so intentional about it, of doing it every 2 weeks, of like having kind of constantly, and like if the guy says, or hey, I want to be a pro, you're kind of reminding him what those goals are and really be able to check with them more often is like so valuable. Of sometimes those goals get lost and you look back and go, oh, that's right, last year I did tell coach I wanted to be a pro, but have I like held up that standard? But again, reminding that young guy every 2 weeks or however often you're meeting with them is like super important.
Yeah, I just think having those transparent conversations and just holding people accountable. And that include our coaching staff too, right? Like, like it is like, I have to, and I got a great staff. I mean, I got an incredible staff, but strength coach, trainer, like everybody's got to be held accountable. And that's my job at the end of the day, is to make sure that this thing is running as smoothly as possible and everybody's pulling in the same direction.
That's great. So you kind of were talking about your offense, or not offense, but just taking about 3 years to get to it. So kind of transition to offense here.
Yep.
Like, what are some of those principles you have in your guys' offense? I know kind of as it's been developing and hopefully it'll look the best it has this year, and I'm sure that's the plan. But what are kind of some of those key principles you have that you guys implement and look like to be for you to be successful?
Yeah, so I would say, we have we call them Miami absolutes, on both offense and defense. We'll talk more about offense, obviously, here. And the first one is, when you watch a Miami team, the first word hopefully comes to, if you come watch us practice or watch us play a game, is pace. And we want to play, and there's different areas of pace. Like, it's okay. So one of them is playing in transition, what we call sprint habit. That's from day one with us in the summer. We're working on that sprint habit. It takes zero talent to sprint the floor. And we always say sprint for us, not for you, right? Doesn't mean you're going to get the ball, but you've created more space on the floor for the ball, or maybe got somebody else open, right? Obviously, you look at all the analytical data. Obviously, the best time to attack is in that first 6 seconds of the shot clock. And that's been, well established. But we want to push on misses, makes, and turnovers. So that's one way to have great pace. The second way is we want to have great pace in our half court offense as well. So we measure, we call them bolts, right? So it's sprint habit. Every time after Usain Bolt, if you go max speed to our standard, you get a tally mark, boom, right? For your sprint habit. Well, you can also get a bolt for your cutting habit. So we always say cut for us, not for you. Cut to score. It may get somebody else open, right? And we want to be a really, really, really good cutting team. And so you can get a bolt in that way as well. And then the third way at creating pace within our offense is getting on and off screens very quickly, right? So you think about all the big men. You think of guys like, and again, I don't even know if Clint Capella is still in the NBA. I think he is right now. But like, you know, you think of guys putting pressure on the rim, like rolling hard to the rim. That creates pace, and it gives us another paint threat, obviously, as well. So pace is huge for us. That's number one. And then so number two would be we want to play paintball. Now that doesn't mean that we're going to play bully basketball, 3 out, 2 in, that 1990s basketball. We're more 5 out. And the game's really transitioned from 3 out, 2 in to 4 out, 1 in to now 5 out, right? It seems like whatever the NBA does, everything else trickles right through college basketball and into high school and all the way down. But when we talk about paintball, the reason you want to get it there is number one, the shot that we want first and foremost, and we tell our guys this is a layup. Second is a free throw. And third is a kick out rhythm 3 after the defense has been collapsed. So we measure out how often, right, we get the ball to the paint. And our goal is to get the ball to the paint on 70% of our possessions. And the way you get it there, though, it's like I tell you, everybody knows that's where you want to get the ball, but how do you get it there? Number one, you got to have great spacing, right? Phenomenal spacing. I always say good players look great when they have great spacing, and good players look awful when they have bad spacing, right? Understand we got to have great player movement and ball movement in order to get it there, right? And we got to be able to make 0.5 decisions, right? It's quick decisions, create the advantage and then keep the advantage the entire time. But that's how we want to get it to the paint. So we teach our guys and we work heavy in skill on it, driving the ball, posting the ball, again, cuts, which we talked about in the pace. That's another way to get the ball to the rim, rolling hard to the rim as well, which we talked about in pace is another way to get another paint threat at the rim to collapse that defense. And then the third, so one is pace, two is paintball. Third one is going to be what we call avalanche. And so avalanche for us is like when the shot goes up, that's how it should feel like we're crashing the glass. Like just all that snow, I kind of envision that, like all that snow just pummeling down. Like that's how it's got to feel when we go to the glass. And, our goal is to get 32% of our misses back. Which again, you're going to say, well, that's not top 25 in the country, coach. And it's not, but the best offensive rebounding teams in the country are usually playing more 3 out, 2 in, 4 out, 1 in. We're 5 out space. So we don't have really anybody in the paint. So we're kind of unique on how we crash, but we crash all 5 guys. So our guards have the responsibility, just like our big guys do in wings. And I don't care how tall you are. But man, there's nothing more deflating than giving up an offensive rebound. You got to guard for another 20 seconds on the shot clock. And so again, offensive rebounding takes zero effort or zero talent, just max effort. That's the great thing about basketball. Everybody gets so caught up in scoring. It's like, well, if you sprint the floor, if you cut hard and you crash hard, you're impacting the game in a huge way on the offensive end without ever even touching the ball. And getting our guys to understand that and value that. And I always say you get what you emphasize, right? So we emphasize those things every single day, and we measure them out every day so that our guys see that we value it.
Yeah, it's so many different ways you just talked about that. You kind of mentioned it of like some of those things don't take skill, like to have a big impact. And obviously being able to make the shots great, but it's like if you can sprint your lane in space and cut hard and all that stuff it's just as impactful as being able to make 10 threes or whatever it is. It's being able to create that space for other guys is huge. A couple questions just kind of based off of what you were talking about right now. And the first one is on like the bolt thing. How do you guys track that? And like, what does that look like for you in your program? Is that something like going on the guys' lockers? Is that something you're tallying in a different way? But how does that look for your program of like, so guys visually are seeing that?
Yeah. So we call them energy generating behaviors. We call them EGBs. And so what we do is we have a TV at practice that gets daily update. So they know exactly where they stand. So we have a guy, you get like a chain at the end of the week on Sunday if you're the winner of the week. So bolts would be a part of it, right? Anything crashing the glass, we talk about avalanche as a part of it, right? And they start to see, we grade out every practice, every live rep is when we grade, right? So, and we just tally mark it, and those guys, it gets updated daily on the TV, and those guys will see it in the locker room before they go out on practice. And then they'll also see it out on the practice floor so that they can see exactly, oh, well, I'm third right now this week in EGBs. I'm only 3 behind the leader. So I can get it, and again, these are things that take zero talent. It's, but you can have a huge impact. And we also keep track stat, like, hey, made twos, made threes. We call that our Miami way. But the EGB, it does, like, you can be a freshman. Usually your older guys are going to win what we call the black and gold jersey, which is the Miami way. Like the points, usually your better players are older guys. But guess what? You can be a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I don't care if you're 6'9", if you're 5'10". I don't care how talented you are, how well you shoot. You can impact and you can get these EGBs. And so again, you get what you emphasize. So it's in our guys' face every single day.
That's such a cool way to do the buy-in too on it. Like you said, they see it every day, and then whatever, giving them the black and gold jersey, like you said, or the chain of like kind of goofy, like kind of corny, but like at the same point, like guys love that, man. They love being able to whatever flex a little bit on their teammates that they won it that week, kind of be able to chirp each other a little bit during practice, and like that's such a fun way to do that.
Absolutely. And it gets by. And I tell those guys, listen, I value it. We value it. The guys that grade out high are guys going to play. It's as simple as that. So then when I have these meetings every 2 weeks, we talked about the development, we're going to talk to them about where they stand in the EGBs on the team and in what we call the Miami way. And it's like, listen, playing time, this isn't Halloween. This isn't everybody gets a little bit of candy. You get what you earn, right? And you earn that through every day in practice. Practice is everything. And that's what we grade out, and that's what we value.
That's great. Kind of on that avalanche you're talking about, you said you crashed 5 guys. How does that look like for you guys in transition back on defense? You guys have a strategy to kind of match that up? Is that something you're kind of living with of like, hey, man, if we lose a couple of those baskets in transition, but how does that look like for you guys kind of heading back the other way if you don't get that offensive rebound?
Yeah, I encourage anybody to really study Aaron Fern down at Charlotte. Aaron does a great job. He's a terrific coach, and it's called the tag up system. And listen, if we're going to be more of a 5-out team, I think the old adage or the old way of, saying, hey, we're going to send our 5, 4, and 3 to the offensive glass, and the 2 and the 1 are going to get back. Well, a lot of times in 5-out, our 5's in no position to offensive rebound. But because we play a lot of 5-out, we play modern basketball on the offensive end. Well, so we have to, I feel like we had to make an adjustment due to our space because we're not in the paint. So we have all 5 guys tag up on every single on every shot. And basically basically what it is, you try to scrum people into the paint. You try to create an umbrella because long shots are going to equal long rebounds, right? So you want to tag up on the high side so that we're on the correct side. If the defense does get the rebound, well, we're on the correct side now for transition defense, right? And you don't have your matchup in transition. You have whoever you're tagging up on, and you pick up full court. Now it's not like Press Virginia when Huggins was there. We're not trapping. We're just trying to slow the ball down. And we sprint into transition defensive position, like into what we call the plugger. Kind of you want to fill the gap so there's no middle penetration when we deny any advanced pass up the ball side. We load to the ball and the other guys. So you want to get to the point where you're 50-50 on the offensive glass. Like if you can scrum them into the paint, you kind of push the guys into the paint, the guy that you're tagging up on. Like I said, by staying on the high side, that gives you a 50-50 chance to get the rebound. And then we get a lot of tip outs. It's been really, really good. It's unique. It's relentless. It's physical, which I love. And we play really fast on offense. So I think it fits us because we want to play fast on defense as well.
Is there any teaching going on that? That's great, by the way, of like just kind of great way to keep with the pace and everything like that. It's pace on offensive rebound. Now you're implementing even kind of just staying consistent with your philosophy. But any way you're teaching that at all? Is there any kind of teaching that, or is it literally just go as hard as you can and wedge your guy in and try and get tip outs? Is there any strategy you guys have on that, or is it pretty much?
Yeah, there's quite a bit actually. Like teaching it now. It's number one, you obviously always want to show your hands while you're scrumming them into the paint, just so you don't get any offensive fouls. But I think the big thing, we want both blocks and the nail always kind of covered, right? So now you're creating that umbrella, like I said, because long shots do equal long rebounds. And if you can't get it with 2, we tip it out, right? I mean, we talked about that, but there are some nuances with it, like whether, for example, if I shoot the ball, our shooter always shoots. He doesn't crash. I want him to focus on making the shot. But I will tell you, some teams are going to fly by, right? They're going to do the flyby and the closeout and leak out, right? And so you have to watch it hit the rim. And if it hits the rim, then you got to get back on your horse, boy, fast. Or if I drive the ball, say by you, and I kick it to a teammate and he makes the three. Well, right now, because I went by you, I'm on the incorrect side. So I got to hook back around, right, to tag up on the high side of you, right? So it's weird. So guys have to be really disciplined with it because, sometimes you got to fight that urge of like, if you have a runway, I don't think that's a good thing because because here's the thing, your odds of getting it, and if you don't get it, you're really putting us in a position at a disadvantage on defense, right? So I think if you track it out, I think you'd be amazed how many times you don't get it when guys go all the way in like that. And then it's like, man, now we're playing 5-on-4 the other direction or 4-on-3 the other direction. For what? His odds of getting that rebound were maybe 15 to 20%, maybe at best. Right. And so it's like, is it really worth it in the grand scheme of things? So there's a lot of nuances like that, whether you drive the ball baseline, I fall out of bounds and I hit the drift pass. Well, then I got to hook back around again, right, to get back on that high side. If you don't have a guy like scramble situation, right? So like all of a sudden we're doing, because we move the ball pretty well. So we get teams in scrambles. Well, if I don't have a guy to tag up on, what do? Well, you got to run more to the top, to the nail, so that we're protecting ourselves in transition defense, right? So just a lot of little nuances with it. But I will tell you, man, I've really enjoyed it. I really like it. I think it fits today's modern basketball space, the 5-out spacing.
Yeah, there's some cool points you just mentioned on that I think kind of don't get thought about. It just goes such against human instinct, or I guess basketball player instinct of, if I drive and I'm already inside the guy, like I have inside position, I'm gonna kind of almost box him out for position, or like you said, a flyby, and you're like, oh, I got all this open space, I can go crash, and it's like that's not really the system of like sticking to that system. I'm sure you get so much more success than on the defensive end. You might miss out on one, maybe two, like you said, maybe, but it's also not sticking to your guys' system. So super cool points you just made right there.
Yeah.
Curious for you guys, and I think you kind of already been kind of pointed at some of these answers potentially of kind of what's your non-negotiables in your program.
When we talk about, so for us, it's living out our core values every day. Like if you're talking more about core values or like,
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's awesome.
And we recruit to it. Like, listen, this is part of it. Talent is only part of the equation. I always say that in the recruitment process, it's not the equation. We're all about fit. We embrace what Miami is, the academic piece, and it gives us a niche. We're different than most schools. So especially around here in the Midwest, but from a core value standpoint, we number one, we want to compete at every moment. I don't care if it's practice. I don't care if it's a summer workout, individual workout. I don't care if we'll play anybody, anywhere. We love to compete. Love it. There's a winner and a loser to everything we do in practice. Secondly, we want to carry your brother. We want to have a family atmosphere. We want guys that are great teammates, both on and off the court, invested in each other, make people around you better, best versions of themselves off the court and on the court. That's what the great teammates can do. Then thirdly, we want to embody undeniable confidence. We want guys that have swagger, guys that have belief. The bigger the moment, the looser we are. And you earn that confidence, though, through embracing the process, right? And being mentally tough. You miss 3 shots in a row. The next time somebody reverses the ball to you, you let it fly with complete confidence because you've taken that shot 1,000,000 times because you embrace the process. And then the fourth one is striving for more. I want guys that are never becoming complacent. Never. I don't care if we've won 5 games in a row. I don't care if we've lost 2 games in a row. We are going to push. We are going to find ways to do things better. I don't care if, hey, we're not just going to do something because we've always done it that way. Is there a better way to do it? Let's do it. Let's look into it. Let's figure it out. If it can make us better, let's do it. And I'm open to anything and everything as far as that goes. Let's just be a lifelong learner. Let's have a curious mind and learn about different things and see different perspectives and whatnot. And I think it's just a great characteristic to have. So the guys that ultimately get better have that.
The undeniable confidence is a great one. And that's, I think, something not always a core value of like kind of that personal one of like, how do you guys implement that though? And how do you guys really get guys to buy into that and have that confidence like in your coaching staff of trying to really keep guys, that's such a mental thing of guy to guy in basketball, such a mental game, but how do you guys really get guys to buy into that and have that confidence, that swagger?
I think number one is putting in extra work. Like outside of our hours. We're obviously, like in the off season, we're only about 8 hours a week with our guys, and then during season 20 hours. So it's like, you know, if you're going to do what everybody else is doing, then how you can expect to be any different? Like you have to make sacrifices. We hold our guys accountable in that. Now, listen, we can't per NCAA rules. I want to be clear on that, but what we do is we encourage it, and our players compete with each other with it. Who can do it? Who can be in there more? Who's getting more shots up? I think that's where it starts, is embracing that process and getting understand how to like build out your day, how to build good habits, how to win in life, right? But then I think from a coach's perspective, it's like, man, I try to give those guys the green light. In the games, it's almost like, it's funny, like in practice, I think I'm different in the games. In the game, it's almost like you're you think about like Rocky Balboa. I loved Rocky growing up, watching that movie. You think about Mick over there. When he comes over to the side of the ring, and you're trying to build him up, talk him through it, man. Hey, next round, you're good. You've earned this right. I think you want to give those guys incredible confidence in the games and build them up and let them know how you really feel. And then hey, listen, in practice, I'm pushing those dudes. It's very different, quite frankly, between games and practices.
Oh, it's great. That's such a huge thing of, being able to I don't have a coach on my back of worrying about what's going to happen when I miss this shot, but really getting a coach to buy into them and what they're doing is huge. Last thing I got for you, coach, is a 30-second timeout. So I'm going to give you a quick situation here in the game situation and have you talk through your timeout and what you'd be doing here. You ready for that?
Yep, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so our situation for you is 5 seconds left in the game, a tie game with a baseline inbound.
Okay. Do I need a 3, or you say it's a tie game?
Tie game, yeah. So go for the 3 or take the 2, whatever you got.
Yeah. So I'd probably take whichever one's easiest. I would say my first play, I'd start in a flat alignment. We'll probably have our point guard take the ball out of bounds. I'd go my best shooter in the ball side corner. So let's say it's on the right side of the floor. The guy's inbounding the ball. So right corner would be my 2. My ball side block would be my 5, weak side block 4, and then my 3-man would be on the weak side corner. I would have my 2 immediately sprint to the ball side elbow, the right elbow. And at the same time, the 5-man who is on the right block is going to sprint and touch exactly where the 2-man was just at, right at the 3-point line. He's going to sprint and touch there. As that's happening, the 4-man who is on the left block is going to sprint and wrap around the 2 at the right elbow. All right. And he's going to do so in a manner to where he's going to try to illegally bump into X2, the guy's defending the 2-man. He's going to show his hands and he's going to go right back to the rim, trying to just a little bit of a rub screen. And then the 5 who is now in the right corner, right? The 3-point line, is going to sprint back in and set a little pin and clean up for my best shooter to get a shot in the right corner, right where he started, right? So it's a lot of action. And who I got it from was Davidson years ago when Steph Curry was there. So I always called it Davidson action. It's a great action. You can get a 3 off that. And then if you got a really good shooter flying off of that, you may get the 5-man slipping right back, chest the ball right there for a dunk or a layup, especially in an end-of-game situation.
So those end-of-games, you get those weird switches happening and bad switches.
Yep.
That's a great action. Is your 4, once he's curling off that elbow, is he kind of going back to where he started, so you're clearing up that slip a little bit?
Yeah, so he will go all the way to the weak side corner if he doesn't get it at the rim, which more than likely he won't get it at the rim.
Yeah.
So we'll clear out the weak side 3 will be our safety all the way deep. So then you're really opening up that slip for the 5-man. If the guy helps out at all onto the 2-man.
Nice. I love it. Putting pressure at the rim with a big guy and got a good shooter heading to the corner.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, appreciate you taking some time this evening and talking some hoops and getting a little bit of insight on what you guys are going to be doing this year, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Coach.